Hi guys, I'm Giselian, voice of reason. Right, we're going to talk about, over the next couple of videos, a lot of people have been asking me about, are we going to go into World War III? What's going to happen in regards to any type of nuclear conflict, or will there be nuclear conflict in Ukraine? I did mention something like this before. However, just to earn the right, if you like, I used to be in military intelligence for the British during the 70s and 80s, right in the middle of the Cold War. And I held a top secret clearance called Cosmic. Cosmic top secret clearance means that you get to know where all the nukes are, and you get to know the nuclear strategy as to what is actually going to happen. And I can talk about this now because it really doesn't matter. Now, what used to happen, and this is going to be interesting on probably the third video I do, because only some nuclear weapons work and some don't, and there's a reason for this which I will explain. However, the nuclear strategy for the British during the Cold War was that we had a number of different tactical nuclear weapons. They were mounted on like Lance missiles, which are fired from an armored vehicle, and we also had 155 shells, and that was with the Royal Artillery Heavy Regiment, and these were nuclear shells. There was also another area as well, which we called Madams and Saddams, which I'll do in a separate video. And that is a medium atomic demolition device and a special atomic demolition device. But let's just talk about what was going to happen when the Russians were coming, if the Russians are coming. And the fact is that the Russians were never coming. We knew this. It was that the nuclear weapons were merely a deterrent. There was nothing, no way that the Russians were coming. And again, there was some evidence about that, which I may go into in another video. But the nuclear proliferation, if you like, in the Cold War was based upon two rivers. So as soon as the Russians came to the West, if they were going to do that, as soon as they crossed the River Liner in Germany, that was then phase one, okay, and that's what triggered the nuclear response, nuclear awareness response, not the launch of nuclear weapons, but that was a readiness. Okay, so at that point, when the Russians crossed over the liner, that meant that it was the collapse of the forward positions, and that the Russians would then be coming into what was called the RCZ, or the rear communication zone. And there was a stopgap, and that stop was the River Weser. And it was always said that as soon as the first Russian boot went into the River Weser, that would be the trigger for the launch of massive nuclear weapons, all of a tactical variety. Okay, so the Lance missiles of 50 Missile Regiment, which was based in Dortmund, they were prepared to do it, but they only launched one missile a year, and that was with a cork warhead. And they used to all gather together and see this thing go off in a few seconds, and that was it. That was training pretty much for the year. All the rest was just deploying. So the 155 heavy shells, again, were arbitrary. We didn't know quite how many of these things would actually go off. So there was a lot of nuclear munitions. There's much less now. I think we're now around about 12,000 to 13,000 worldwide. But given that we only need 40 of these munitions to go off in the world to pretty much eradicate life on this planet, or certainly to throw it into a nuclear winter, it just makes you realize just how fragile this Earth is, and how the emotions of owning nuclear weapons and the use of nuclear weapons is such a powerful thing, and should be used only lightly. Interestingly, that Putin, every time that Ukraine has a win, threatens the use of nuclear weapons. He's threatened it again if the British Storm Shadow weapons are fired into Russia. So it's okay for Russia to fire their weapons into Ukraine, but when someone does exactly the same back to them, they don't particularly like it. But the fact is that Putin is not going to use nuclear weapons. He may use a tactical nuclear weapon on his own soil. As I said in the previous video, he's entitled to do that. It's not encroaching or having any type of incursion on another foreign power. If he wanted to break the Ukrainian attack in Kursk, that's something that he could do. Then he runs the risk, of course, of nuclear fallout in his own country, and obviously killing its own citizens. I mean, that may be a bridge too far for him as well. And the fact is, you've got to remember that Putin's initial motivation was to secure Ukraine, for the Russian people, and to protect the Russian designated people in Ukraine. It's hardly going to be the case if he's going to nuke them. So he's between a rock and a hard place. But nuclear weapons, like I say, I know a lot about them. I was involved in the securing of nuclear weapons at the special ammunition site in Senelager in Germany during the Cold War. Part of my task was to work out how to break into these places to see if we could determine any security breaches. So I have a lot of knowledge about that, and some of that I'm going to be imparting over the next couple of days in various videos. So if you're interested, like and subscribe, comment. I'm new to this TikTok game, but it seems to be working quite well. We've had something like 13,000 views in the last few days, so it obviously works. And I've got my first few haters as well, so I'm taking that as a badge of honor. And I had one community violation, and because I mentioned a person beginning with the letter H, apparently, in historical form, but there you go. So I work on the theory that only ineffective people don't have enemies. So the fact that we're starting to get haters as well, it's okay, not a problem at all. But I'll give out this information because I feel that it has value for people. So that's me, that's Simon Trizelian, that's what's happening today, and I'll speak to you tomorrow. Take care, bye-bye now.